Good afternoon. My name is Angelica Rivera. Today we're going to be learning about sensitivity analysis and how this can impact capital budgeting. When considering financial risk revolving around any investment, there are there are numerous aspects that need to be closely studied to understand the impact it may have in different possible scenarios. Financial advisors use different tools to consider these factors. One of the most used being the sensitivity analysis. I think that what makes the sensitivity analysis one of the most commonly used in business is because it considers different variables, changing variables, and it also analyzes the possibility of several aspects changing at once, ranging from interest or probably the cost of production, and it considers all these different variables, right, among others, and how that may impact a particular business. The sensitivity analysis considers a different range of possibilities from quantitative to qualitative aspects, and today we're going to be learning a little bit more about those. Among the qualitative aspects of a sensitivity analysis, first it identifies key variables. It considers variables that have a significant impact on business. As I mentioned prior, things like taxes and production costs, revenue, interest, different things that may change and vary in a financial analysis. They take that into consideration and they look into the possibility of how that may change in the future. It also defines ranges in considering historical information and establishes possible values for the different variables that they chose to analyze. It also has scenario description, which explains the different possible scenarios and outcomes in qualitative terms, and how each factor would affect them. Also, it has the risk assessment. That would be like the last qualitative step in a sensitivity analysis. What the risk assessment does is that it analyzes the risk impact in each possible scenario and explains the potential impact each would have over the company. We also have different steps for the quantitative steps. First, they have the model setup. What happens in the model setup is that you create a financial model for each possible variable. Keep all variables stable while changing one at a time to consider solely independent variables that sole independent variables impact, okay? The next step would be to record the result for each one of those variables, right? So keep record of the results for each scenario, include the company's financial performance and how it contrasts to the baseline scenario. Also, the next step would be graphic organization, and all that would include creating graphic visuals to show the different scenarios and how that may affect the different variables. It's important to acknowledge that you don't only want to consider the negative risk and the way it may impact negatively. You always want to take in account also the things that may go well depending on those variables. What would happen if the interest rate drops, right? How would that affect us not only how the different variables would impact us Yes, we want to know how it impacts us negatively, but you also want to know what may change in our favor, right? Our next step would be the scenario analysis. And the scenario analysis, well, you create new scenarios, joining several of those variables or possibilities together to represent the possibility of having more than one of the variables impacting the company at once. So let's say not just the production cost or the cost of materials or the interest rate raise, not just one happen, but you had multiple of those scenarios happen at once. What would happen to the company? You also want to consider that. And then last, you would have risk mitigation. And what you do is that first you identify the possible areas of growth and areas that represent major risk impact, because you want to make sure that you prepare for anything that negatively may impact your business, right? Also, based on these results, you develop a plan to mitigate any possible vulnerable areas, but also you want to make sure that you identify areas that you can exploit if it happens that it shows a possible positive outcome in any possible scenario. When we talk about project risk in capital budgeting, well, project risk analysis is absolutely necessary in capital budgeting for any company that seeks growth and longevity. In order to sustain a successful business, it is imperative that decision-making personnel make informed decisions. These decisions need to be based not only on the present on the net present value, right, of a company, but also on possible future scenarios and outcomes. There are many things that are that may vary in businesses near and long-term future that need to be considered as possible risk it may encounter and foresee possible solutions, or in the best of situation, prevent them from negatively impacting the company. Any organization that seeks to protect this investment needs to look into tools like sensitivity analysis, for example, in order to make the most reasonable decisions in a business world that is always changing. Thank you.